everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today we are going to be doing another relaxing training session, but I thought we would switch things up a little bit. Before I delve into that, I just wanted to say that I am doing something a little bit differently with the videos today. I am using my reshade presets to try to make a little bit of a more aesthetically pleasing to look at video for you guys. If you guys like this style of video, please let me know. If you do not and you prefer no reshade at all, also let me know. I will say that having reshade on does make it harder for me to see what I'm doing and where I'm going. So you will see me crash and burn quite a lot throughout this video. So try not to judge me too hard in the comments, okay? I swear I did my best. But instead of just chatting, I wrote an original Star Stable horror story for us. I did want to just let you guys know that it is purely fictional. Nothing that you see in this video is real, so I don't want you guys getting too scared. Saddle up, get your favorite horse moving, and let's begin. I've been playing Star Stable for so long that I can almost navigate Jorvik with my eyes closed. The roads have become familiar. I know exactly where every sharp turn is on the path to Valedale. I know which fences you can jump and which ones will stop you dead. I know every shortcut between Steve's Farm and Silverglade, every hidden trail through Firgrove, every rock that has sent me flying because I hit it at the wrong angle. After years of playing, the game stopped surprising me. Or at least, I thought it had. It happened during the last week of October. Not during the Halloween event, not after some huge update. Just an ordinary Friday night. I had gotten home from work exhausted. After dinner, I climbed into bed, watched a couple YouTube videos, and before I knew it, it was almost 1 in the morning. I wasn't tired, so I did what I always do when I can't sleep. I opened up Star Stable. The launcher updated like normal. Nothing unusual. I clicked play. The loading screen appeared, the familiar horseshoe spinning in the corner while the music played softly through my headphones. When the game finally loaded, my character appeared outside Moorland's stable. The first thing I noticed was how quiet everything felt. Usually, even after midnight, there are still people around. Maybe not hundreds, but enough to make the world feel alive. A few riders hanging around the stable, someone advertising their club, a group practicing dressage. That night, there was no one. I opened global chat. Nothing. Not a single message. No conversations, no advertisements, no drama. Just an empty chat window. I actually smiled. Guess everyone went to bed. It didn't bother me. If anything, I liked it. Jorvik almost felt peaceful without dozens of players running circles around the stable. I whistled for my horse, Raven, and started my usual training routine. Moorland, Fort Pinta, Steve's Farm, Silverglade, simple, comfortable routine. The morning hung low over the hills as Raven's hooves echoed across the dirt road. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The only sound besides the music, or at least it should have been. About halfway to Fort Pinta, the music stopped. It didn't fade out. It didn't change tracks. It simply stopped. Complete silence. I frowned. That happens sometimes after updates. Probably just another bug. I kept writing. Without the soundtrack, the game felt strangely empty. Every hoofbeat suddenly sounded louder. The wind through the trees seemed sharper. Even the gulls near Fort Pinta had gone quiet. When I reached the beach, something else caught my attention. The water wasn't moving. It wasn't frozen. It was perfectly still. Like glass. No waves. No ripples. Nothing. I slowed Raven to a walk. That's weird. I rotated my camera. Everything else looked normal. The lighthouse stood in the distance, the ferry rocked gently against the dock, except it wasn't actually moving. It only looked like it should be, almost like someone had paused the animation halfway through. I told myself I was imagining things. Games glitch, animations break, servers lag. There was always a reasonable explanation. I finished the Fort Pinta race and headed towards Steve's farm. That's when I saw her. She stood on top of the hill overlooking the riding arena, completely motionless. A rider dressed entirely in black. Black jacket, black gloves, black riding boots, even her horse was black. but not the glossy black most horses have. This one almost seemed to absorb the moonlight around it. I couldn't tell what breed it was from that distance. She wasn't doing anything. She wasn't chatting. She wasn't moving. She was simply watching. I checked the player list. One name. Mine. I frowned. Maybe the list was bugged. I looked back towards the hill. She was still there. I laughed nervously. Okay. I typed in global chat. Hello? The message appeared instantly. No reply. I waited. Still nothing. I looked up again. The rider hadn't moved an inch. Curiosity got the better of me. I nudged Raven toward the hill. The closer I got, the more details I noticed. The horse wasn't wearing any tack, no saddle, no bridle, nothing. Yet the rider sat perfectly still as though everything was completely normal. That should have been impossible. When I was close enough, I hovered my mouse over her character. Normally, a player's name appears instantly. Nothing happened. No name, no level, no club, just blank space. I blinked, hovered again, still nothing. For a second, I wonder if maybe she'd somehow turn her UI off. Then I realized how ridiculous that sounded. You can't turn off your own name. I pressed enter. Nice horse. No response. The rider remained completely still. Not even the horse breathed. Then, without warning, she slowly turned her horse towards the forest road leading to Silverglade. She didn't trot, she didn't gallop, she simply walked, one slow step at a time. And after a moment's hesitation, I followed. I wish I hadn't. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. She stayed ahead of me, walking the exact same pace no matter how quickly Raven tried to catch up. I wasn't galloping. I wasn't trying to chase her. I simply wanted to get close enough to figure out what I was looking at. Every time I thought I'd close the distance, she somehow stayed exactly where she'd been. Not further away, not closer, just unreachable. It was an odd illusion, like trying to walk towards the moon. The road leading towards Silverglade was one I'd ridden hundreds of times before. Every bend in the trail was familiar. The fences, the old stone walls, even the crooked oak tree near the crossroads. I could have pointed them out with my eyes closed. Tonight, though, everything looked different. Not wrong, just empty. The lanterns lining the road still burned, but their light barely reached the ground. The shadows beneath the trees fell darker than they should have. Even the air seemed heavier somehow. I glanced towards the minimap in the corner of my screen. My icon was moving normally. The rider's wasn't there. Okay, I muttered to myself. That's definitely weird. I stopped Raven completely. The mysterious rider didn't. She continued walking down the road without ever looking back. I watched her for nearly 30 seconds. She never disappeared around the corner. She never became smaller in the distance. She just kept moving. At the exact same distance away from me. Like the game refused to let us get any further apart, or any closer together. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I had two choices, turn around or keep following. The smart decision would have been to go back to Moorland, finish my training, log off, maybe even laugh about the strange visual bug tomorrow. Instead, I clicked Raven forward. Silverglade Village should have been bustling. Even late at night, there was almost always someone riding through, finishing quests, or heading towards the championships. Tonight, every street was deserted. The bakery windows were dark, the market streets were empty, the fountain in the center of the town had stopped flowing. I slowed Raven to a walk. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt wrong. There should have been ambient sounds, water, birds, the distant chatter of NPCs, something, anything. Instead, the only sound in my headphones was Raven's breathing. I opened global chat again, still empty, not a single new message. Curious, I typed one. Is anyone online? I hit enter. Nothing happened. The message never appeared. I frowned. Maybe chat had disconnected. I tried again. Still nothing. No error message. No warning. It simply refused to send. My internet couldn't be down. Everything else in the game was working properly. I checked the server clock. 2:03 a.m. It hadn't changed in almost 10 minutes. The rider stopped. She stood just outside the Silverglade stable. For the first time since I'd seen her, she turned. Not her horse. Her. Slowly. Her head rotated toward me, much farther than any normal character animation should allow. I actually felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't dramatic. There were no glowing eyes, no creepy smile, nothing like that. It was the movement itself. Too slow. Too smooth. Too human. Except people don't turn their heads that far. Then she lifted one hand. She wasn't waving, she was pointing toward the stable. I looked at the stable entrance. It was open. Nothing unusual. When I looked back, she had already started walking again. I've officially lost my mind. I laughed quietly. This is just a bug. Even as I said it, I didn't believe myself anymore. I rode into the stable. The moment Raven crossed the doorway, the screen faded to black. Normally, entering a stable loads the interior. Instead, nothing happened. The loading horseshoe never appeared. The screen remained black for almost 15 seconds. Then, very slowly, the stable faded into view, except it wasn't my stable. Every stall was empty. No horses, no stable hands, no music. The lanterns hanging from the ceiling barely glowed. Dust floated through the air. I dismounted. My boots echoed across the wooden floor. Echoed. That had never happened before. Stable floors didn't echo. I walked toward the center aisle. Every stall door stood open. Inside each one, nothing. Not hay, not buckets, nothing. Just darkness. A strange thought crossed my mind. How many horses should have been here? 20? 30? Where had they all gone? Then I heard it, a single hoof step behind me. I spun around. Nobody. Another hoof step. Closer. Then another. Slow, deliberate, like something was walking just outside my field of view. I swung the camera wildly around the stable. Still nothing. The footsteps stopped. I waited. Silence. Then a stable door creaked open by itself. Just one. Halfway down the aisle, I stared. Inside that stall, a black horse stood perfectly still. No saddle, no bridle, no rider. It turned its head toward me slowly. I clicked on it. Nothing happened. No interaction, no name, just the horse watching. My heart was pounding now. This isn't funny. Even though I was completely alone, the horse blinked. Then, without moving its legs, it was suddenly standing one stall closer. I froze. I knew I'd seen it happen. It hadn't walked. It hadn't animated. It simply wasn't where it had been anymore. Another blink, another stall closer. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. I mounted Raven so quickly I almost missed the animation. I turned toward the stable doors. They were closed. I was certain they'd been open when I came in. I clicked toward them anyway. Nothing. Raven refused to move. I tried again. Still nothing. Behind me, another hoof step, then another, then another. Not one horse, many, dozens, as if every empty stall now contained something shifting in the darkness. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My cursor hovered over the quit game button. Should I close the game? Would it save? Would I lose progress? Why was I even thinking about that? Just quit. I clicked. Nothing happened. The menu disappeared. I clicked again. Nothing. The game ignored me. Then from somewhere behind me, a woman's voice, soft, almost a whisper. You shouldn't have followed. The whisper didn't sound like it came through my headphones. It sounded like someone was standing directly behind my chair. Not loud, not aggressive, just close enough that I could feel my stomach knot. You shouldn't have followed. I ripped my headset off and spun around. My bedroom was empty. The only light came from my monitor, casting long shadows across the wall. My bedroom door was still closed. The hallway outside was dark. No one was there. I laughed nervously. I seriously need to stop playing horror games before bed. Except I wasn't playing a horror game. I slowly put my headset back on. The stable was silent again. No footsteps, no whispering. The strange black horse was gone. Every stall was empty. Had I imagined it? The stable doors creaked open by themselves. Without thinking, I urged Raven forward. This time, she moved. The moment we crossed the doorway, the familiar loading screen flashed for barely a second before I found myself back outside. The fresh night air almost felt like a relief. The trees swayed gently. The stars hung overhead. Everything looked normal, at least for about 5 seconds. Then I noticed something that made my heart sink. Silverglade Village was gone. Not literally. The buildings were still there. The roads were still there. But everything felt abandoned. The windows were dark. The lanterns had gone out. Even the NPCs had vanished. It looked like something had taken a screenshot of Silverglade and erased every little living thing from it. I opened my map. Blank. Not broken, just blank. The entire map window was gray, except for a tiny white dot marking my position. No roads, no towns, nothing. I closed it. Okay, I whispered. This is definitely a glitch. I don't know why I kept saying that. Maybe because it was easier than admitting I was scared. I turned Raven towards Moreland. If I could just make it back to my home stable, I'd log out and reinstall the game tomorrow. Simple. Only, the road wasn't there anymore. I knew exactly where it should have been. Instead, there was only forest. Dense, black pine trees stretching further than I could see. I'd never seen that area before. I turned the other direction. The road to Steve's farm had disappeared too. Every path leading out of Silverglade was gone. The village sat along in the middle of the forest. It was alone, and it didn't belong there. A notification appeared in the top corner of my screen. Connection stable. I almost laughed. Connection stable? Then why did nothing else work? Another notification appeared. 1 player nearby. I froze. 1 player? I slowly rotated the camera. Nothing. No one in front of me. No one behind me. No one near the stable. The notification remained. 1 player nearby. I looked toward the church. Empty. Toward the fountain. Empty. Toward the riding arena. Still nothing. Then a notification changed. Player approaching. I swallowed. Approaching? From where? My eye searched every corner of the village. Still nothing. The camera suddenly jerked on its own. Just slightly, barely noticeable. It turned enough for me to see the road leading toward the castle, or where the road used to be. A figure stood between the trees, completely still. The rider. She wasn't on the road. She was standing inside the forest itself, halfway hidden between the darkness. Watching. The notification disappeared. She began walking, not toward the village, towards me. I clicked Raven into a gallop. Finally, she moved. I raced across the empty square as fast as I could. Hooves thundered across the cobblestones. I didn't care where I was going anymore. I just wanted to get away from her. I glanced behind me. She wasn't chasing. She was still walking, slowly, yet somehow she wasn't getting further away. I urged Raven faster. My stamina bar emptied. Still. The distance between us never changed. I could feel panic creeping into my chest. This wasn't possible. Then something caught my eye. A player standing beside the fountain. I nearly shouted in relief. Finally! Someone else. I galloped straight toward them. As I got closer, something felt wrong. They weren't moving. They looked frozen. I slowed Raven. The player wore beginner clothes, starter horse, starter saddle. Their character stared straight ahead without blinking. Hello? No response. I clicked on them. No name, no level, no club, blank. Another nameless rider. Then I noticed another one, standing outside the bakery, and another near the bridge, another beside the stable. One by one, they started to appear the longer I looked. None of them moved. None of them had names. They simply stood there watching. The hairs on my arms stood up. I looked back toward the forest. The original rider had stopped. She was no longer alone. Dozens of black horses stood between the trees now, perfectly still. The nameless riders in the village all turned exactly at the same time. Not their horses, just their heads. Every one of them toward me. A message appeared across the center of my screen. Not in chat, not in a notification box. Across the entire screen. They remember who followed. The text faded. My game minimized itself. I stared at my desktop. For one brief second, I thought it was over. Then the Star Stable launcher opened on its own. I hadn't clicked anything. The play button glowed. Slowly, pulsing, as though waiting for me. I reached for my mouse. The button changed. It no longer said play. It said return. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The launcher sat in the middle of my monitor waiting. The familiar blue play button was gone. In its place was a dull gray button that simply read, return. I stared at it. My mouse hovered over the X in the corner. I clicked and nothing happened. I clicked again, still nothing. The launcher went and closed. I opened Task Manager. Star Stable wasn't listening. According to my computer, the game wasn't even running. Yet the launcher remained on my screen, waiting. The word return pulsed softly every few seconds. Finally, my curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked it. The loading screen appeared instantly. No music, no spitting horseshoe, just a black screen. After a few moments, while text faded into view, finding player. That wasn't normal. Normally it said loading world. This time it was looking for me. The text disappeared, darkness filled the screen again, then my character appeared. Not in Moorland, not in Silverglade, not anywhere I had seen before. I stood in the middle of a long stone road stretching further than I could see. Fog covered everything beyond a few hundred feet. There were no trees, no mountains, no sky, just endless gray mist. The road continued in both directions forever. Raven stood beneath me, breathing slowly. Even she seemed nervous. Her ears twitched constantly. I tried opening my map. Nothing. Quest log. Nothing. Friends list. Gone. Even the settings button had disappeared. The only thing left on my screen was my health bar and my name. For the first time since this all started, I noticed something strange. It wasn't my full name anymore. One letter was missing. I frowned. Maybe another bug? Then another letter faded away, slowly, like ink washing off paper. I watched in disbelief as my character's name continued shrinking, one letter every few seconds, until eventually only my first name remained. Then, half of it disappeared too. My stomach dropped. A memory flashed through my head. Names keep writers in Jorvik. The words from the nameless writer echoed in my ears. Without one, you can go anywhere. No, not anywhere, nowhere. A distant hoofbeat echoed through the fog. One slow step, another closer. I turned Raven toward the sound. Out of the mist she appeared, the rider in black, walking just as slowly as before. She stopped a few feet away. For the first time she spoke, not through chat, not through message, her actual voice. You still have enough. I couldn't answer. My microphone icon lit up by itself. The game was listening. You shouldn't have followed. Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't threatening. It sounded sad. I didn't know, I whispered. I was just curious. She nodded once. So were we. She lifted one hand and pointed behind me. I turned. The fog was lifting. Hundreds of riders stood silently along both sides of the road, every single one nameless. Some wore modern clothing, others wore outfits from years ago, starter horses, festival horses, limited time tack. I realized what I was looking at. Not NPCs, players from every era of Star Stable. Watching, waiting. The rider continued speaking. The world forgets. I frowned. What? When a player leaves forever, they're remembered. She looks down the endless road. But sometimes someone is forgotten. The words made no sense. She continued. Accounts deleted. Names changed. Friends gone. Clubs erased. Pictures lost. No one remembers they existed. I looked toward the silent riders. Every single one stared back. Those are... She nodded. The forgotten. A chill ran through me. You mean... They played once. They laughed. They raced. They made friends. Then one day, no one remembered them anymore. I thought about every Star Stable friend I had ever made. People I hadn't spoken to in years, names I'd forgotten, accounts I'd never see again. How many of them had simply vanished from memory? The rider looked at me again. You still remember. That's why you came. I didn't come here on purpose. No, you followed. She was right. Nobody forced me. Every step, every choice had been mine. She reached into the pocket of her jacket. Slowly, she pulled out a small silver nameplate, the kind that floats above every player's head. Blank, no letters, no symbols, nothing. She held it toward me. If you take it, you stay. If I don't, You wake up. I hesitated. The riders behind her never moved, never blinked, just waited. You'll remember us, she whispered, but eventually you'll forget. The thought hurt more than I expected, not because I knew these people, because somewhere someone had ridden beside them, laughed with them, started clubs with them, taken screenshots with them. Now, nothing remained, not even their names. I slowly shook my head. I'm sorry. For the first time, she smiled. It wasn't creepy, it was heartbreak. I know. She stepped backward into the fog. So are we. The riders began disappearing, not walking away, simply fading. One after another, like mist beneath sunlight. The last thing I saw was the black horse standing alone. Then, everything went white. I woke up at my desk. Morning sunlight poured through my bedroom window. Birds chirped outside. My monitor displayed the Star Stable login screen. Everything looked completely normal. I checked the clock. 8:14 a.m. Had I fallen asleep? It almost felt ridiculous now, just a strange dream after playing too late. I laughed, closed the launcher, got ready for work. For weeks, nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd imagined the entire thing. Until one afternoon, I was scrolling through old screenshots. Pictures from years ago, club photos, championship wins, festival memories. Then I'd found one I'd never seen before. It showed my character standing beside Raven on that endless stone road. Behind us, hundreds of riders, every face blurred except one, the rider in black, looking directly at the camera, smiling. At the bottom of the screenshot, a chat message, no username, just 6 words. Thank you for remembering us a little longer. I deleted the picture immediately, emptied my recycle bin, restarted my computer. It never came back. At least not on my computer. Sometimes when I'm training late at night, I'll ride past another player. Perfectly normal, nothing unusual. Then just before they disappear over a hill, their name flickers. Just for a split second. Blank, like it was never there. Maybe it's a loading bug. Maybe it's my imagination. Or maybe, somewhere beyond the edge of Jorvik, there's still a road hidden inside the fog. And every now and then, someone else gets curious enough to follow. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for listening. And before anyone gets too nervous about logging into Star Stable tonight, I promise this story was completely fictional. I wrote it just for fun. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments because I'd love to write more original SSO horror stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see another one, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, maybe think twice before following a stranger down an empty road in Jorvik. Bye, everyone!